Alright, tonight we'll be talking about the third type of conditionals in the English language. You remember that from the previous class we had on this topic that there are 4 types of conditionals in the English language. The first being zero conditionals, the second being first conditionals, the third being second conditionals, and finally the fourth type we have the third conditional. So today our focus is on the third category, the third type, which is second conditionals. And of course, you know how it's always been in this series. What we'll do is to look at the definition of second conditionals in the English language. Then we'll proceed to the structure that realizes second conditionals. And finally, we'll wrap up the class with examples, sentential examples of second conditionals. So let's get to the class right away. What are second conditionals? Second conditionals are sentences that express rare / unlikely or hypothetical situations, either in the present or in the future. So this is the definition of second conditionals in the English language. They are sentences or conditional sentences that describe, that talk about, that express rare simply means unlikely, or hypothetical situations, either in the present or in the past. So what we're saying, in other words, is that second conditionals are quite different from zero conditionals, which of course talk about conventional truth or factual truth or universal truth. And of course, they are different from first conditionals, which of course talk about real possibilities. So they talk about hypothetical things, situations, or situations that are imagined, situations that are actually very not likely to happen. For example, you want to talk about lotteries. If you play a bet, for those who play bet or who are into betting, you understand that betting or lottery games are games of chances. You really can't predict what the outcome could be, right? So when you have that type of situation, you're talking about second conditionals. Okay, so just basically situations that are not likely to happen, or hypothetical scenarios or case studies. So let's proceed to the structure that realizes second conditionals. The structure that realizes this is, of course, the conditional head, which is if, plus past tense, plus would, plus base form of verb. So this is the structure that gives rise to second conditionals in the English language. The conditional head, which is if, of course, you know that this must always be present in conditional sentences of this type. So this is the structure that realizes second conditionals in the English language. This is the framework. The first is if, followed by a past tense verb. And then you have the past tense verb being followed by would, which is of course also another past tense verb, plus base form of verb. So let's have examples. Let's have example sentences. Examples. So let's use the lottery case that I talked about as an example. To start with, if I won the lottery, if I won the lottery, comma, because there's a pause. If I won a lottery, or if I won the lottery, I would travel. I would travel the world. If I won the lottery, I would travel the world. Now, this can be interpreted to mean an expression for the future and an interpretation that means a situation for the present. Now, you put yourself in the situation of somebody who has just played a bet. You've applied for a lottery or a visa lottery. I don't know how all of those things work anyways. Now, if you play a bet, you play a sporting game, a sporting bet, and then you're expecting the results. That's futuristic, right? So you don't know what the outcome will be. It could be positive and it could be negative. But of course, in this case, you know that the chance of you winning the lottery is very slim. The chance is almost zero. We can say it's zero, but however it is, you just know that the chance of you winning the lottery is not highly predictable. It's not that very predictable. So that's why we have the structure come into play here. If here plus past, you see that past tense, of course you have the lottery in there. I would, you see that the structure here, travel the world, travel the world. Travel here is the base form of verb. So that is the first example. Remember, this situation is actually one that talks about a rare situation, rare or unlikely situation. It's rare to happen. It's not every time that you apply for lottery that you win. It's not every time that you play bets that you win. So that's why the structure is like that. This does not mean that this situation is in the past. Of course, you're using it to express a circumstance that may happen in the future. So let's have another example. If I were you, or let's say if I were in your shoes, comma, I would not return home. I would not return home. Okay. Now, if I were in your shoes, I would not return home. Now, this person here hasn't even returned home yet, so let's get that correctly, which of course explains the whole essence of second conditionals, in that they talk about situations that are rare or unlikely or hypothetical situations. And in this case, this situation here is hypothetical. Now, I am not in this person's shoes. I can never be maybe I can be in this person's shoes, but right now, I'm not the one in this situation. There's somebody in these situations, and that person is the person here. Your shoes. If I, the speaker, if I were in your shoes, now there's somebody here that's a respondent or a recipient. There's a second person in this conversation, and the second person is here, right? It's this person here. We don't know what the identity is, but of course, if I were this person, I would not return home. Now, perhaps this person in question is contemplating whether or not to return home. And this person is offering a piece of advice that, hey man, you want me to decide for you. If I were in your situation, if I were in this situation, just like you are right now, I would not do this. So the structure again is playing out here. If, which is the conditional head, then you have past tense here, were. And of course, you cannot say I were. Normally, in another video, where we'll be talking about subjunctive, I'll be explaining more about this structure in the English language. But for now, let's restrict ourselves to what this structure is in conditionals, right? In second conditional. So if I were the past tense verb, okay, in your shoes, I would. And this is because it's impossible for me to be in the shoes of this individual. So we use the past tense for that impossibility, rare situation. If I were in your shoes, oh my goodness, if I were in your shoes, I would not return home. So that is another example. Now, finally, if she prepared, if she prepared well enough, or if she prepared enough, comma, she would pass, she would do well, let's say do well in her exams, in their exams. Okay. Now, if the conditional add, if she prepared well enough, prepared, which is the past tense, well enough, she would do well in the exams. Okay. Now, this is an example of a hypothetical situation. It's hypothetical because, of course, it's not the case that this is rare or it's unlikely. Rather, we're just painting a scenario here that if this individual would do this, this would happen. And of course, we should understand something here that when sentences like this are woven, we normally use them for people, for individuals, let's say students or persons. Do I say aesthetically lazy people who we don't expect to prepare well enough? If you have this student who doesn't prepare well, who doesn't read well, who does not, or is not meticulous about their studies, we often use this type of expression for them, right? That if they did the right thing, they would have this type of result. But of course, we know that the chances of this person, the natural expectation of this person preparing well enough is very slim. So it's not the case that, remember that you might be thinking, hey, something is wrong with this type of expression. If you think so, kindly go back to the second type of conditionals, the second type, which is the first conditionals. And you know that the first conditionals talk about real possibilities. If this were to be in the first type of conditionals, right? In the second type of conditionals, which is the first conditionals, then it would be if she prepares well enough, she will pass. If she prepares well enough, she will pass. So that's a situation of what will happen. So that is a real situation. But in this case, we're using this for an unlikely situation. It's unlikely for the person being talked about here, for this individual, it's unlikely for this person to prepare well enough because we know them to be naturally lazy. So in other words, whether it's their first conditionals or the second or the third, the situation has to be contextual except for the zero conditionals, which you know to be universal truth. With all of this, I believe that you have a better understanding of what second conditionals are in the English language in terms of the definition, the structure or the framework that realizes them, and finally, in terms of these sentential examples. So if you have any question on this concept of second conditionals, kindly drop your thoughts or your queries in the comment section. I will attend to them appropriately. Thanks for watching to the very end. If it's the first time coming across this channel or this TikTok account or whatever social media it is you're watching from, remember that this is Ben's English Lab. And of course, I do have a YouTube channel where I channel all of these videos in full. And that channel is Ben's, or you say, at Ben's Voice. That's Ben Voice Narrative. That's where I have all of my full videos. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because of people that are watching on TikTok. Some of the videos that I channel that I upload on TikTok are often halved. Not usually full videos. They're not usually full videos. So if this video you're watching right now, you're watching on TikTok, happens to be halved, kindly proceed to Ben Voice Narrative on YouTube to have the full video. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video. I'll be talking about the last type of conditionals in the third conditionals. See you next time. Bye for now.